video is on covalent bonds. Covalent bonds is a bond made between a nonmetal and another nonmetal. When these make a bond, they make molecules. Now covalent bonds are going to share electrons because they're basically two anions that both want more electrons. So instead of giving one to the other one, they share them back and forth. And we'll talk more about how they share those electrons when we draw Lewis structures and Vesper models in the coming days. So to name covalent bonds, we have our two elements, and our first element is going to keep its name, just like in ionic bonds. The first element is always going to keep its name. The second element is going to have that IDE ending on it, just like our anions on ionic bonds. So far, same setup. To differentiate between ionic and covalent bonds, we use prefixes, and we also use prefixes for covalent bonds because they no longer have the charges like my ionic bonds did. Ionic bonds have my cation with my positive charge, anions with my negative charge. Now with covalent bonds, I don't have that, so I can't use those charges to balance out my compound that I'm making. So I have to use prefixes so we know how many we have of each. Now here are the standard first 10 prefixes that we're going to use. They're also listed on your sheet, and you want to write those down if they're not. So you want to have these, and you should memorize these. Some to take a look at is for 4, we have tetra, 5 is penta, 6 hexa, 7 hepta, 8 octa, 9 is nona, 10 is deca, 2 we use di, di, 1 is mono, 3 is tri. So just the ones that we want to remember, there should be like the same ones that you used in geometry. So, with our prefixes, my first element is only going to get a prefix if there's more than one. We don't want to start out with mono. That's always implied if I at least have one of my first element. My second element, however, is always going to get a prefix. Example number 1. I have N2O5. Now I have a nonmetal nitrogen with another nonmetal oxygen, so that tells me I have my covalent bond. Covalent bonds, I need prefixes on them. So I have 2 nitrogen, so I'll write di, nitrogen. And then I have 5 oxygen, so I write penta, oxide. Some people also write pentoxide as well, leaving out the A because of the 2 vowels there. That's fine as well. My next example, I have PCl3. Well, again, covalent because they 2 nonmetals. But my first nonmetal, I only have 1. I do not start with mono, so I just write phosphorus. And now my second element, I use my IDE ending, and I start with my prefix tri because I have 3 of them. So I have phosphorus trioxide. Going the other directions, your prefix tells you how many you have of each element. Tetraphosphorus means I have 4 phosphorus, so I have P4. Decoxide means I have 10 oxygen, so I write O10. P4O10. I do not reduce these. My next one, I have dichlorine, so it means I have chlorine, and 2 of those. Monoxide means I have 1 oxygen, so ClO2. Go ahead now and try writing the chemical compound for disulfide, tetrafluoride, and then for NCl3. Sorry, this should say disulfur. Disulfur. So disulfur, tetrafluoride, and NCl3. You should get S2F4 and nitrogen trifluoride.